Hi, I'm Joe Hart and welcome to Footballers Unfiltered. I know what you're thinking, and no, this is not another football podcast. This is a show brought to you by FIFPro, the global union for professional football players, which is bringing real conversations amongst the players on and off the pitch today to you. In 2017, FIFPro issued a global report on employment within football, and it recognised that only 2% of female players were mothers, and that a staggering 47% of women footballers had retired early from the game to start a family.
My whole career, we women, we have spoken about family, joking around in a way, being like, oh, when are you going to have a baby? Like 40? After your career, or are you going to sacrifice your career? So it's like, oh yeah, I would like to have maybe 35. Then I'm done playing, I want to try to have a baby at 25 or 8, and then I will come back.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like a conversation.
In wanting to stop women footballers having to choose between a family or playing football professionally, FIFPro created maternity regulations, and FIFA implemented them into the game in 2021. A few months later, Sara Bjork, an Icelandic international and key member of a hugely successful Lyon team, fell pregnant and became the first big test to the new maternity regulations.
And when I had that call about us winning the case, it just like 5 kilos went off, and I was just so relieved. And like for myself, I understood how big that was just for other women, understanding that yes, I can do both, and I need this. I will get the support financially. Yeah. That support from my teammates and from the club. I'm really, really proud of that achievement in my career.
Sara Bjork's story helped create awareness of the protections and help pave the way for others. That's why Sara's our guest for this episode of Footballers Unfiltered. So before we speak to Sara, this is a part of the podcast where we get to speak to the specialists from FIFPro. Today I'm joined by Alexandra Gomez-Brauwood. Alexandra, please explain to us what your role is in FIFPro.
Hi, thank you very much for the invitation. Well, in FIFPro, I am leading now the legal department. And of course, what we do there is mainly advise our members, that is the players' unions or players' associations around the world, on best practices, good governance, etc. We advise them on how to negotiate a CBA, for example, a collective bargaining agreement or a standard contract. We help them with claims that they might have at national level with their players. So it's like a general assessment. And we also advise on negotiations with FIFA and the other confederations. So a pretty broad task.
Really broad, really broad. But today we've got Sara on, and I know you guys work closely in the maternity regulations. Please enlighten me on what you guys managed to achieve.
Yes. So what happened was that in 2017, there was a survey carried out by FIFPro in professional women's football. Yeah. And that research showed that the players were leaving the game too early. So they were leaving the game before reaching their peak. And there were two main reasons for that. One was obviously financial. Yeah. And the other one was that they wanted to start a family. And they did not see that it was possible to have a family and play football at the same time. So they felt that they had to choose between one or the other. And we immediately thought that was really, really bad. And all the workers around the world normally had maternity protections. Yep. Why would the professional football players not have them? So we looked internationally to see if there was any sport that had regulated maternity at international level, and that was not the case. We prepared a policy from FIFPro with all the maternity regulations as we wanted them. And we presented this document to FIFA. Yeah. And this ended up being the regulations. But if you think that before 2021, that was on the 1st of January when the regulations really came through, there was nothing, zero. So players had nothing to rely on, at least at international level, right? Yeah. And from there to have 14 weeks as a minimum mandatory maternity leave, paid as a minimum of 2/3 of the salary, the right of the player to decide if she wants to continue playing or not. So there were lots of things that had been included. That was a massive step forward, right?
Huge step forward. That's absolutely unbelievable work. But we're sat here now in 2025, and I was just wondering how the regulations have been modified and what you're looking to do in the future.
Well, it's really good to see that the regulations have also evolved. So after seeing how they worked for a couple of years, there were some bits that were maybe clarified, but also further rights were granted. For example, regarding adoption leave and also family leave that applies unfortunately only to female players, but it's still a very big step forward. And there were other protections as well added. So we see that this is an evolving matter where we continue pushing for better standards. However, we still have some issues in rights that we have requested from the very beginning, even before the 2021 regulations.
Yep.
For example, the extension of the contract of the player that becomes pregnant or is going through maternity leave. And why is this? Because in women's football, the average length of a contract is only 1 year.
Okay.
So if you have a 1-year contract, you need to sign the contract and become pregnant almost the same day in order to really benefit from the provisions, which of course doesn't make sense. So from the very beginning, we had said that these protections must come with the extension of a contract. For how long? That is something that can be discussed. Of course, ideally, you would say a full new season, but maybe it can be until the next transfer window. But at least that there is like some stability and that the players can effectively use these rights that we are providing, right?
And is the conversation ongoing? Do you feel comfortable that the regulations that matter are open to these conversations? And also, on top of that, do you feel like the message is out there enough for women in the game to understand what their rights are?
It has been difficult, the discussion with the stakeholders on the extension. I think we will get there.
Yeah.
Actually, a couple of days ago, the Norwegian League of Women's Football decided as a league to provide this extension of the contract. We also have it in Spain through CBA. We have it in Argentina through CBA. So it's not that it doesn't happen anywhere, but we deem it should be mandatory. And then something else that must change is that male football players are also parents, right? So they should also have some rights. And this is something that we think is not spoken much about.
Not at all.
It has evolved slightly, but a little bit, and we still hear discussions on, this is a big match, and the wife of the player is giving birth. What is more relevant? And these are things that are a little bit mind-blowing. So we deem that the family leave, that is the leave of the non-bearing child parent, obviously should also apply for a male player, and that in our initial proposal was only 15 days. Now, in the regulations in FIFA, 8 weeks have been granted. I do see that it will be tricky to apply that to men's football, but at least a leave for the father to be able to share this important moment with their partner, with their baby, and also for the mother that has delivered the baby. It's interesting to have a little bit of help. I say it as a woman.
Oh, no doubt.
So, I think that those two things are probably now the most important to get right now. And then lastly, a really important project we're working on is on assisted reproduction. Because in women's football, it's quite common to see assisted reproduction, and this is not regulated at all. So, of course, once the player becomes pregnant, the regulations kick in. So, that part we have it covered. But what happens is that in order to become pregnant, there's a whole procedure that needs to happen. And this procedure implies many times, for example, taking hormones. All this has consequences in the body of the player. And it can be tricky for the club not to know that the player is going through this. But then if they know, it should be clearly stated that they cannot oppose it because this is a right of the player to go through this. There might be a need to request a therapeutic use exemption regarding doping because of the substances that this player needs to take for the procedure. So we have already actually drafted a whole proposal of regulation, and we have already sent it to FIFA. We haven't heard back yet, but we are also confident that this will rather sooner than later be regulated too.
Amazing. Right, Alexandra, thank you very much. Really, really excited to see what we've got coming up. So let's bring Sara in. Okay, Sara, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us. You're out in Saudi Arabia. Tell us a little bit about life right now, please.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm in Saudi Arabia and it's going good. Me and my partner are both playing here and our son is thriving and we like it so far.
So I see you smiling and I see your heart full. That's the feeling right now. Now you've been through what you've been through and you've got to the position that you're in. How were you feeling in 2021 when you discovered you were pregnant and the world you realized pretty quickly was going to change?
In a way, I was excited because I always wanted a family. Me and my partner, Artni, was in a good place that if it would happen, we would be happy. But it's just like you're in the top of your career, and Lyon was always like my dream team to go to. The first season there went so well, played a lot of games, was an important player for the team and played in the Champions League final, scored. Always been my dream as a professional, winning that title. And I've always been so close and was close with Wolfsburg doing that.
Yeah.
Had an amazing first year. And then we found out that I was pregnant, and it's weird because normally you just start to think, okay, what does the team think? What does my sponsors think?
Yeah.
You think about all other people than just like, how am I feeling?
Yeah.
And then, it came in like, oh, what do I tell the national team? How are they going to take it? And so there was a good feeling, but still I was nervous because everything is so unknown. You don't know anything. I didn't know anything.
Obviously, I can't relate for the obvious reasons. Because I don't know how it feels, I don't know how it changes your body, but I've been through the process with a partner. And from a sporting point of view, I don't know how you put that together in your head, because you're trying to focus, you're trying to be a good teammate, be a good friend, be a good partner, but also you've got to protect something inside you that you don't know what it is and how far along it is, whether it's solid or whether it's not. So how did you handle those early days, not being able to share it probably with a lot of people, where that journey is something that you need people around you and you need advice?
I just hit it in the beginning. I told the team doctor and the physios just to make them aware, because we were taking in some supplements with the team, and there's a lot of things that I need to, like, especially with the doctor, just to have some observation of if everything was fine, if I trained or how long I could train. But for sure, I was nervous to announce it to the team and my teammates and the coach. And I think I played like two games pregnant.
Yeah. And
I trained for around 8 or 9 weeks, but I felt exhausted. Like normally as a midfielder, like I'm just, I can run as much as I can. And I just felt like after 10 minutes, I was completely done. And I think also just stress and a little bit of anxiety about, like you said, I'm protecting, a lot of things, and, also a human being inside of me. I said to the doctors and the physio, I've decided I want to tell the coach and the team. And that was around 8 or 9 weeks. Yeah.
So I'm just trying to look at it from as best way I can. And I think about a male dressing room when I was first going through the process. It was such a joyful time and a time that I could share, and I could go to the older pros and I could say, look, how is this going to change my life? Basically, what I'm trying to get is there's so many conversations I could have straight away as soon as I was ready to. And I had people that I could look at who have got kids and worked out how their career paths go and how we're going to work it as a family. Did you have anyone other than the doctor that you could look up to, or anyone you could seek for guidance at this point? Or were you very much having to handle it yourselves internally?
I told 2 of my teammates in the beginning, and they obviously just were so happy, and we're just like also a little bit shocked, like, whoa, like it was a bit black and white what happened. I didn't like consider, oh yeah, right, I have the regulations, or or something like that. I was like, oh, I'm lucky they did that now in January. It didn't even cross my mind. It was just my whole career. We women, we have spoken about family, like joking around in a way, being like, oh, when are you gonna have a baby? Like 40? After your career, or are you gonna sacrifice your career? So it's like, oh yeah, I would like to have maybe 35. Then I'm done playing. It was never in a conversation. I want to try to have a baby at 25 or 8, and then I will come back.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like a conversation.
Can I ask you something? Because you did play, right, in the national team with players that did have children. Did you think of maybe reaching out to them to see, like, what they could advise you, or it didn't cross your mind?
No, I reached out to them also. And, I was also in the national team at that time when those players were, bringing their children to camp. So, in my mind, I also knew that, it's possible, but it's just so individual, I reached out to some players in the national team who had babies before that in their career, like, which is the best coach to train with during my pregnancy.
Yeah.
And I went to that coach, so they helped me, guided me a bit, in that way. But then again, there's no like one guidance for all pregnant women,
Yeah, and I know you've talked about in detail what went on at Lyon, but I'm just interested how you thought when you told the club, being at one of the best clubs in Europe, you talked about the Champions League winners and very progressive. How did you see the scenario playing out when you announced the happy news, the joyful news that you were pregnant?
I didn't know what to expect. I've seen that before in top teams and also in my teams, that one day you're the star, or you're very important for the club because you're playing and you're performing very well, and then you have a big injury, and you're not important anymore, This is in my head, because I'm very important when I was playing and I was giving something to the club. But now I'm going to be out for many months. So in a way, I was also, started to have a little bit, okay, they're not going to like it, obviously, because I just know how big clubs work. But obviously it's different. I was having a family, and I also expected, them just to be happy for me, which they were when I told first the coach, and he was just so happy, father himself. And he just said, this is the life, just being a mom and a dad. And I felt relieved. And we sat down in the locker room with all the physio, with the staff members and the teammates. And I told them that, the reason why I haven't been playing or training as much is that, I'm pregnant. And you can see like the half of the team is like cheering, like, wow, like amazing. Yeah. And then the other are just like, wait, what does that mean? It's like, not like they were not happy for me, but it was like, and that's what I'm saying. If it's not really, was not black and white. So it's like, what happens? Are you coming back or not? But obviously you feel a little bit like you are letting down the team, because like as a player, you want to contribute to the team, and you want to help the team in every game, and you share the same goals. And I asked the club if I could go to Iceland to continue my pregnancy be with Icelandic doctors, that I could speak my mother language. And
Sara, there it's relevant. Remember that we were in the COVID period, so that was also relevant. I remember.
I think around 13 players in our team got COVID, and at that period, that's right, Alexandra, that they stopped training. Yeah. So I say I want to go home as fast as I could, because I was also afraid of getting COVID and didn't know how that would affect my pregnancy and everything. I left in the beginning of April, not really thinking about what my rights and guarantees are. Yeah. Just thinking I would receive my paycheck, for the next month. I see 1 month goes by or 2 months and I don't receive my paycheck, and I speak to my teammates, you got your paycheck and you got your salaries, and say, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Then I knew something was not right.
Yeah. And is that where you two met?
Yeah. This is where it all started.
I'm just really interested because I know, Alexandra, you're coming with your expertise, but just from a mental point of view, you know, you're pregnant, you're in Iceland, but during COVID, it's a strange time anyway. And I think, you know, you're an intelligent woman. You would have realized pretty quickly that this was going to turn into something, that you were going to have to really either go in all the way, or was there any moment where you thought, you know what, I just want to take care of my baby, I'm going to pull out? Because what you've done is put it in place for people to not go through the stress, but I think it would have become obvious quite quickly that you were going to have to go through quite a stressful time at such an important time in your life.
Yeah, I think the point was for me, you know, when we mentioned that we would go to FIFA with this,
yeah,
they just told me, oh, if you do that, you have no future here in Lyon. You know, then I just got so mad.
Yeah.
And in my head, it's like, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
It was my dream team to be at, the best football team in the world, you know, and I made it there, and I had an amazing first season, and I really liked it. I loved it. But that, when I heard that, I was just willing to go all the way with it.
And also the decision should not have come as a surprise, right, to the club, because we had several conversations with them. We sent letters to them explaining that the regulations had to apply, why they had to apply. So we had a lot of patience. And we explained that actually if they did not comply, we would go to the FIFA DRC. So it was a bit strange that the club would have that reaction, because we were for a couple of months discussing this, and we had to get to the FIFA DRC because there was no other avenue, right? They wouldn't reason with us.
That's the thing. They wouldn't reason with us. And like you said, there was a lot of explaining done, you know, quoted regulations, you know, if you haven't checked it. It was also that stubbornness, just like, nope, we're not even looking at it. And, you know, also, Alexandra, it took them like a long time to answer, or like sometimes they didn't answer, and it just felt like they just ignored it completely.
Because that part is, I think, very interesting, because Sara, she had to go back to the club without having a decision yet. So in January, she went back to the club, and the decision only came in the end of May. So, you know, that was extra tricky.
It was a tough time.
From me, an outsider looking in, it looks like a foregone conclusion. The case, you have the evidence, you have the laws. Did you feel like that when you were going through the process, or did you always feel like at the back of your mind that you might not be able to achieve your goal, which is just implementing the law, if anything?
Well, from a legal perspective, we were confident, but we were also aware that this was the first case.
Yeah.
So it was the first application of the regulations ever. So we didn't have any jurisprudence or other cases that we could look into and say like, oh, look, like in these cases, it's always granted, like the player will for sure win. And there were some specificities because Sara left the club. She went to Iceland. She left with authorization, but she was not providing services to the club. So one of the discussions was whether she had the obligation to provide also some other services, even if it was not footballing services to the club. And that's why also strategy-wise, in a certain moment, we even asked Sara to offer her services and maybe do like a documentary with the club or something, so as to say, okay, we're still doing something with you. And I think that actually helped us in the end.
When I look at my football career, I look at it from two perspectives. I look at it from just a young boy growing up who loved playing football and got to do some pretty amazing things. And I also look at it from a professional point of view where I had standards, I knew my ability, and I knew what I wanted to achieve. So very much two ways of looking at it, and I was always able to jump from one to the other. I'd like to ask you from a personal point of view, how do you feel about the amazing impact that you've made on women's football and women's rights inside of football when it comes to this, what we're talking about now? Because, you've spoken and we spoke recently. I know it makes you very emotional, but you must be so proud that you've set the standard and, if anything, just made it black and white and made it okay for someone to think about it earlier on in their career and realize that they have got a path in football.
I'm very happy that we went through this, together. And, it made it very clear for women today that they don't have to choose and they don't have to sacrifice. And that makes me very happy. We were confident, but, it was the first case, so you didn't know how it would go. And when I had that call about us winning the case, it just like 5 kilos went off, and I was just so relieved and like for myself. And then I understood how big that was just for other women, understanding that yes, I can do both, and I need this. I will get the support financially, emotionally and physically. Yeah. That support from my teammates and from the club. I'm really, really proud of that achievement in my career. Obviously, it's something that I did not expect, or something when I was younger, I'm gonna, fight this and, win this and do that for other women. But I think like as a woman footballer today, the thing is if you don't open your mouth and if you don't fight, and if you don't tell your opinion and if you don't speak up, things are not gonna get done. So I'm very happy that I did that. And I, first of all, did that for myself. And I know also how much it affected other women today, and other women that have come to me and just thanked me, and other top players coming to me and speaking to me about how it was and, considering having a family. And it's nice to see players in top clubs like, Lieke Martens, Amanda Ilestedt, Melanie Lepos at that time. And, you can see like it's happening more and more. You can see the clubs are supportive. Yep. We see that like from the media side. We don't know if they are. I hope so. I really hope so. But it looks like that. That's a step in the right direction,
It's groundbreaking what you guys have achieved and what you're part of. But I think on the plus side, it seems like although they may not be ready, they're at least willing to listen. You're not going to be getting shut down.
I think that's also a very important thing. Coming to Juventus, I appreciated all the support, and I wasn't prepared also myself, but it just takes time. And like you said, just to be open to the conversation, and that's a start in the right direction. You should normalize that into, okay, we have a player who's a mother. Okay, we need a school, options for her. Like this is school options, nanny, daycare, whatever it is you need. You want to take your baby with on away trips, no problem. We pay for someone to come with you. You get an extra room. So the player is not asking for everything. Yeah. I want to be 100% professional. Yeah. It's me playing football. That's just my time. Not fighting for this and that there, and it's exhausting.
I think that's one of the most exceptional things about this, because obviously what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to fight for, and ultimately it's just because you want to play football. And from a male perspective, I've been lucky that I've been able to do that and have those facilities and things put in place. The Club Lyon itself would probably get lost in the fact that what your end goal is as well as supporting your children and supporting women, you just want to be your best on the football pitch, which is probably what they're thinking. They probably think you're thinking the opposite. How can I make out of this? How can I, spend time with my child and still receive my wages? No. You're trying to find out the best way you could possibly get yourself to 100%, giving what you can give on the football field. So I think that's such an important message in all this, and and it's one that no doubt that you want to give across, and it really speaks volumes.
My goal as a professional was never to earn that kind of money that I can live on. Yep. I never considered that. I didn't think it was possible. I just want to play football.
Yeah.
I just want to play football.
I've had experience, obviously, from my side in terms of match days and preparation days. And, you know, I was lucky enough. I've got a great wife who helped me when it came to being able to focus on football. How did you find getting yourself back into a match day routine and putting yourself in a headspace where at some point you were going to have to focus on being the best you possibly could at football, not just as a mother?
Before I had Ragnar, you know, I was just fully focused on everything came to my career, you know, like training, extra training, nutrition, sleep, and whatever it takes to push my performance for the better. But when you have a child, you can't, regarding sleep, you can't really control your sleep.
Yeah.
So in my first year or first month, I maybe slept 3 hours in the night, and then I was at the training ground for maybe 4 or 5 hours. Obviously, you're trying to be the best player when it comes to football that you can, but I accepted it.
That's a skill to learn that, because you could punish yourself. You could constantly be asking yourself, am I doing what's right for the team? Am I doing enough to be a professional footballer? Because you knew what 100% looked like, but you know, it's impossible. And I'm, like I say, as much as I can relate, I can relate in terms of when you come home, you need to be focused on being a part of a family again, being supportive partner in a relationship. But I just mean that was how I could relate to it, and that actually gave me a lot of peace, because mid-20s everything was about me. And I wanted it all to be about me, and I wanted to be the best, and I wanted to fight with the world's best and put myself on the stage and put myself on the level. And then the moment that I realized that it wasn't about me was actually one of the best feelings, because it just kind of calmed everything down. And I was going to go out there, and I was still going to try my best to be the best I possibly could be, but it wasn't that important how I was perceived, because as long as I was taking care of, you know, my business was over there, my business is now here, and over there's football. Mm-hmm. So I really like that balance. Do you enjoy football differently now, play with a different kind of spirit when you're on the pitch?
I do, actually. And I enjoy it even more. Not that I put like expectation and pressure on myself. It's just that I'm just so much more relaxed.
Yeah.
I'm just so much at ease and in balance where I am. I said to my partner that day, if I would get injured, my career would end now, I would be fine, you know.
Yep.
I will be completely fine. I have everything I want in my life for the future.
And the mad thing is, a 26-year-old you, listening to someone say that, you'd have turned your face up and been like, what? What are you saying?
Okay, you do you.
Yeah.
You do you.
How can you think like
football,
that? Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. So we're so obsessed with it that nothing else, you know.
But I'm with you, and I don't regret. Like, I love that I felt that way, and I love that I feel differently. I've stopped playing, but it's just stages in life, and you get with experience. I remember when I was of that age, and people were like, calm me down and try and tell me that it's not like that. I wouldn't do that personally as an older player. I'd encourage the fire, because at some point it will drop, and they'll realize that it's not actually that important. But until that moment drops, I just love the energy that gives off, seeing young players hungry, wanting it more, wanting kind of to reach the levels they can reach and grasp the things. You know, I don't know about you as a senior player in the dressing room. I hope you don't mind me calling you that, but I loved that role, and I loved kind of keeping the fire burning as long as possible, and then helping them when they realize that there's a different side to life.
We are in that generation where we, you know, it's just hard work, you know.
Yep.
When you see a character in the younger generation, the young girls now, if you see that spirit, I love that. Like I said, I would never shut that down. Yeah. So it's nice to, you know, be in that role, to be able to, okay, like, you're amazing at this, but if you do that and that, you just go higher and higher. So it's a nice, like, mommy role.
So you're definitely in that role.
I don't.
You're 100% in that role. You'd be in history for that role.
Yeah, but I always say when I start like moving like very stiff and like don't have then I need someone to tell me to, you know, stop.
I don't think anyone will be brave enough to do that.
Probably not. I have to see the video for myself.
Yeah. So, Sara, before we let you go, at the end of every episode, we like to ask our guest 2 quickfire questions. The first one being, if there was a message you could give to a young Sara starting out at football, what would it be?
Believe and trust in what you have. Don't compare yourself too much to other players. There's no limit to what you can succeed at. You have to just enjoy the journey. If I look back, and I think I did that. Just believe in your strength and identity and work hard for it.
Cool. And this is a question that I've loved asking because I would never think to ask, and you probably haven't been asked it many times. What do you love about being a professional footballer?
Being a professional or not, I've always just loved the game. The feeling that football gives me, if it's I have the same feeling since I was even though I was a little girl, I still have it, and I'm 35 this year, and the feeling it gives me by going to training and performing well or preparing for training and seeing, results after hard work, my resilience after a setback or something went wrong or didn't go well. Obviously, being a professional, playing at the big stage and being in this routine and playing with the best players and, the nerves for the competition and, winning titles, even losing titles and coming back, to win it next season. It's just the thrive of it. It's just, I just don't get enough of it. And I still don't get enough of it. And I'm afraid to quit. I will never quit.
Oh, no, that's all we got. That's absolutely amazing. You've got an incredible story, and you'll continue to write it. So thank you very much for your time. Good luck for the rest of the season. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Well, Alexandra, that was amazing. Sara's a very special person, but I don't need to tell you that. I know you guys are close. I know you guys speak in great detail, but is there anything more that you've taken from what we've just discussed there?
Well, I think that I've always admired hugely the courage that Sara has. And I think that in this interview, you saw it even more, and how she thinks that, each person should push through and really try to have a better system for women's football. I think it's really interesting to hear her say that, as a leader in the field and off the field as well. Yeah, I find it super inspirational that she really knew what her rights were, and she fought for them, and she wouldn't stop even if she had before her a massive club.
No, that was really powerful, and you guys have done something truly special. So congratulations for that, and good luck for everything in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Footballers Unfiltered, a show brought to you by FIFPro, bringing real conversations among players on and off the pitch today to you. Footballers Unfiltered is recorded at the Spotify studios and is available on all podcast platforms, so make sure you give us a follow. But if you want the up-close and personal experience, you can watch each and every episode on Spotify. I'm Joe Hart, and this has been Footballers Unfiltered. See you next time.